everyone. Today I will discuss about the function of the larynx. In the previous section of the larynx, I have discussed the muscles of the larynx, and today I will discuss the function of the larynx. What is the function of the larynx? Larynx, it is also called the voice box. It helps in the respiration and also helps in the phonation. During the forced inspiration and during the quiet respiration, the larynx acts. And larynx, it is an sphincter. It's just like the sphincter. Sphincter closes, opens. The larynx, it is also an sphincter for the lower respiratory tract. For the lower respiratory tract. And it provides a mechanism for producing the sound production. It means it helps in the sound production, and it acts as an sphincter for the lower respiratory tract. What is the function of the larynx? The larynx has the function mainly respiration and phonation, that is the sound production. And what are the mechanics during the effort closure and swallowing? During the swallowing, what is the mechanics? During the effort closure of the larynx, what is the mechanism? I will also discuss. Now, the respiration. It helps in the respiration. During the quiet respiration, the mechanism is different. During the forced inspiration, mechanism is different. During the quiet respiration, the laryngeal inlet, the vestibule of the larynx, and the rima vestibuli and rima glottis, they are open, and the arytenoid cartilage, which have the rotatory movement and which is pyramidal in shape, are abducted, and rima glottis is triangular in shape. The rima glottis, as shown in the figure, the rima glottis, it is triangular in shape. The rima glottis, it is triangular in shape. It is triangular in shape. Thus, in the quiet respiration, the rima glottis is triangular shaped, and in the forced inspiration, during the forced inspiration, the arytenoid cartilage, they are rotated laterally. This is the arytenoid cartilage and this is rotated laterally. They are rotated laterally, mainly by the action of posterior cricoarytenoid muscle. The muscle is posterior cricoarytenoid muscle. I have discussed the function of this posterior cricoarytenoid and lateral cricoarytenoid in the previous section. And as a result, the vocal folds are abducted. As the arytenoid cartilage are rotated laterally, the vocal folds are abducted laterally, mainly by the action of posterior rima glottis. The vocal folds are abducted and the rima glottis widens into a rhomboid shape. The shape becomes rhomboid. First, in the quiet respiration, the shape is triangular, but in the forced inspiration, the vocal folds are abducted and the rima glottis open, the widely open, and the shape becomes the rhomboid shape. Not it becomes triangular. The shape has been changed into the rhomboid shape. The shape has been changed rhomboid shape. And the vocal fold and rima glottis widely open into a rhomboid shape, and which effectively increases. तो वाइड ओपन हो गया, तो वाइड ओपन होगा तो क्या होगा? डायमीटर ऑफ द लैरिंजियल कैविटी, विच इंक्रीजेज द इफेक्टिवली इंक्रीजेज द डायमीटर ऑफ द लैरिंजियल कैविटी. Vocal fold abducted, rima glottis widely open, and the diameter of the laryngeal cavity increases. This is the mechanism during the quiet respiration and the forced inspiration, as shown in the figure. Now, next is the phonation. In phonation, the arytenoid cartilage and vocal fold are adducted. Here is the adduction. Here is the not the abduction, adduction. The arytenoid cartilage adducted, and air is forced through the closed rima glottis. The rima glottis, as shown in the figure, during the phonation, the rima glottis, air is forced through the closed rima glottis, and the action causes the vocal fold to vibrate. The vocal fold to vibrate against each other and produces the sound which can be modified by the upper part of the airway and the oral cavity. The sound can be modified by the upper part of the airway and vocal cavity and oral cavity. In the phonation, the vocal cord abducted and vibrating as air is forced between them and vestibules are open. The vocal fold closed during the phonation, and tension in the vocal fold are adjusted by the vocalis muscles and cricothyroid muscles. Vocalis muscle, which is very important, tension in the vocal cord can be adjusted by the vocalis and cricothyroid muscles. Next is the effort closure. What is the mechanism during the effort closure? The effort closure of the larynx, we closes the larynx effortly when air is retained in the thoracic cavity. Here is the thoracic cavity, and air is retained in the thoracic cavity to stabilize the trunk. For example, in heavy lifting, or for increasing the intra-abdominal pressure. During the forced inspiration, we take the deep inspiration, and there is the, or in heavy lifting, we take the forced inspiration and intra-abdominal pressure has been increased, and during the effort closure of the larynx, the rima glottis is completely closed. The rima glottis is completely closed. As is the rima vestibuli and the lower part of the vestibule. Vestibule closed, rima vestibuli closed, and the rima glottis, it is completely closed. Rima glottis, it is completely closed, and the result is to completely and forcefully shut the airway. The airway becomes shut during the effort closure. When it occurs, when there is the air is the retained in the thoracic cavity, or as a part of mechanism in increasing the intra-abdominal pressure. That is the effort fully closure of the larynx occurs and the vestibular fold closed. The rima glottis is completely closed. This is the mechanism during the effort closure. Now the swallowing. What is the mechanism during the swallowing? During the swallowing, the rima glottis, the rima vestibuli and the vestibule are closed. All are closed, and laryngeal inlet is narrowed. Because food have to enter into the esophagus, the laryngeal inlet is narrowed, and larynx also moves up and forward. And this action causes the epiglottis to swing downward. The epiglottis, this is the epiglottis, and this is the laryngeal inlet. The epiglottis to swing downward towards the arytenoid cartilage and to effectively narrow the or close the laryngeal inlet. It means the epiglottis is swing downward towards the arytenoid cartilage. The epiglottis, in this figure, the epiglottis swings downward towards the arytenoid cartilage, and the up and forward movement of the larynx also opens the esophagus, which is attached to the posterior aspect of the lamina of the arytenoid cartilage. The up and forward movement of the larynx also opens the esophagus, which is attached, and this esophagus, it is attached to the posterior aspect of the lamina of the cricoid cartilage. Here is the cricoid cartilage, and from the posterior lamina of the cricoid cartilage, this esophagus is attached. And all these actions together prevent the solid and liquid from entry into the airway and facilitate their movement through the piriform fossa into the esophagus. Facilitate their movement, the solid and liquid entry, that prevent the solid and liquid from entry into the airway and facilitate their movement through the piriform fossa into the esophagus. This is all about the function of the larynx, that is the phonation and the respiration. Please share, subscribe and like my video. Thank you.